Okay, we're recording to the cloud.
Okay, so Lauren, we could go ahead and begin.
I will go ahead and start us off. First of all, just want to thank everybody for making the time this afternoon. As we'll talk about as we start into the presentation, is a really great value of being able to meet with everybody and talk through the process, and just again a great year of collaborating and working with the city. Lauren was able to send a packet of information out, and so hopefully you all have that. The benefit of the packet's got a lot of really great information in a lot of detail. What we've done today and what our focus will be is really the PowerPoint, where we've taken certain topics that we wanted to make sure were brought forward. So if you have any questions, we are definitely very open. This is open and again collaborative conversation. But sometimes it can be found in the packet, or definitely we'll stop at the end to speak in any more detail or any additional pieces that you'd like us to speak to. I just informationally or introduction wise, so many of you have worked with. For those I haven't, my name is Dina Garza, and I'm the audit manager of the local team based out of Bellingham. With me today is Karina Orca and Lauren Mason, both who you've worked with over the years, but both will be presenting a little bit later. So you'll see their videos, but also hear from them as parts come through. On the next slide, just again, as I kind of introed, the value that we see in these meetings. Really, we hope that with any audit process that you're understanding our process, understanding why we're doing what we're doing, and then most importantly, the results. Communication is very important to us, and we've really focused on that throughout the audit process, through the pre-exit meetings and providing any recommendations in writing ahead of time. And this is really the culmination of all of that, and being able to talk through everything that's happened. So many of our main goals, as you can kind of see on the screen, really at the top is increased trust in government. And that's why you see as an independent organization publishing externally things like the clean financial statement opinion that you've received today, being able to publish that out to the public and let them know that the controls in place, that the numbers that are being reported, that they can really be trusted and really relied on with the city. The second, that while we are independent, transparent examinations are really important, both externally and internally. Internally to the city, that we're open about our process, and this meeting gives us the chance again to talk about that and answer any questions. While we are independent, it is really important to us to help where we can, and so whether that's providing resources or recommendations. Both of the hope that it's improving the efficiency and effectiveness of government. So where we can, if we can answer those questions, if we get the resources to you, we do want to help. And so again, all of those being a focus of the conversation today, and really the audit process in general. What I would love to do now is actually pass it on to Lauren to talk more specifically about this year's audit, starting with the scope. So I will let Lauren take it away.
Awesome. So the first thing I'm going to double check on is that everyone can hear me. If you'll give me a thumbs up if you can. Okay, perfect. I was having a few technical glitches with my volume earlier today, so just wanted to get that out of the way right in the front. So as you can see on your screen, the scope of our audit this year was a 2-year accountability, so fiscal year 2018 and fiscal year 2019 4-year accountability process, and a 1-year financial statement audit. We're going to be discussing the results of those over the next few slides. But before we do that, what I wanted to do is take a moment and really thank the city. We know this audit was an unusual, very unusual process. I know our typical process has us just down the hall from being able to come in, ask questions, you'd be able to come in and ask us questions. So doing everything remotely, picking up documents, we really appreciated the collaboration and flexibility everybody was really open to. Additionally, during this audit, we looked at 2 very complex, very thorough sections, and that work was really extensive and required significant conversations. And so one of the things we also wanted to thank you all for was staying really patient with the process, being very open and continuing to foster your extremely strong culture of internal controls. It's really great to be able to talk openly about everything and knowing we're getting all of that great information. So thank you all so much once again. we'll go ahead and start with the accountability audit results. Your accountability report in your packet is found on pages 4 through 14. This particular slide covers information found on page 7. So essentially what happens is as we're planning out our audit, we're looking at risks. So whether we've reviewed things recently, the complexity of areas, those sorts of things factor into what sections we decide to look at. This year, as mentioned earlier, we did look at the cost allocation plan and did a full departmental review of the municipal court. I'll go into more detail about what we did and the recommendations resulting from those areas in the next 2 slides. We did look at your utility accounts receivable, looked at your electronic fund transfers, mainly focused on the payroll controls, and also did a YMCA contract terms review. We did not have any reportable recommendations, and it was a very, very clean, well, those 3 sections were very clean, so nothing really to add to there. As you can see at the base, one of the sentences in your packet is, in most of the areas we examined, the city operations do comply in all material respects with applicable state laws, regulations, your own policies, and do provide those adequate controls over safeguarding of public resources. On our next slide, we'll be talking about the indirect cost allocation plan. So when we're looking at an indirect cost allocation plan, we review, of course, the written plan itself, what cost centers are being allocated out over the various departments and how those are being allocated out. We do have a very special focus on the utility funds because costs allocated there are required to be clearly and directly beneficial to those functions. Overall, the plan is very specific, very robust. We just had 2 main areas where there is room for improvement that has resulted in a finding which will be published with our report. So really those 2 areas came down to, one, your fire department is certified for confined spaces, which can benefit the 2 utility funds, the sewer and the stormwater fund. However, based on the documentation, there wasn't enough to really clearly show why 33% of firefighter costs were directly benefiting those utility funds. The second piece is you have almost a 2-layer allocation for some items. So you have these cost centers that serve multiple funds and are driven by multiple factors. So what happens is you put those factors together in this weighted average almost. While all of the underlying factors are fully supported, that weighted average combination is more of an estimate. So what our recommendations ultimately come down to is on that documentation side, ensuring that each piece is clearly documented and clearly supported for how those percentages play into the plan and are supported by the plan. And also in regards to the confined spaces firefighter charges, ensuring that that is reimbursed to the utility funds for the pieces that were not clearly and directly supported. Before I move on to the next section, were there any questions that we'd like to go over, any clarifications I can offer?
Lauren, I think your office has been really good about walking us through the details of this. Like you said, we've had a number of conversations on this, so that's been very helpful.
Excellent. Then I'll go ahead and move us on to our next area, which is the municipal court. So we do have a management letter level recommendation. This is something that's referenced in the audit report. However, it is not published out to the public. In your packet, this does show up on pages 15 through 17. So the first page will be a cover letter, while 16 and 17 go into the details of the recommendation. So what we actually looked at with the municipal court departmental review, because we hadn't looked at it in multiple years, we really reviewed all the different processes. So receipting, disbursements, collections, reporting, really kind of focusing in also on segregation of duties, which ultimately is the oversight over your processes. Making sure that there's multiple sets of eyes on the different items. Ultimately, as you can see on your screen, there were multiple bullet points that we have listed out, but what it really comes down to is there's one employee who's predominantly responsible for the business type operations of the municipal court without significant oversight or really oversight in some of the areas. So what our recommendation is really coming down to is adding additional support to that employee to provide that additional oversight, that second set of eyes, which will limit anything potentially slipping through the cracks as they go through, honestly, quite a significant amount of responsibilities. And then at this point, are there any places I could go into more detail on the municipal court or any additional questions that I could answer? With that, what I will do is go ahead and pass this over to Karina to talk about the financial audit report.
Great, thanks, Lauren. So we also performed a one-year fiscal year 19 financial audit. In your packet, the audit report starts on page 18 and goes all the way through page 29. There's a lot of information in the report, but we did highlight the most significant results. That way you can see where those results show up. And so as you can see here, the city did get an unmodified opinion over your financial statements. It's a clean or the best opinion our office can issue, which is a great job to the city. What it really means is that those financial statements that we reviewed were presented fairly in all material respects. We also noted no significant deficiencies or any material weaknesses in your internal controls. I really do want to commend the city because your internal controls are very strong over your financial statements, which includes preparation and review. And also we noted no material non-compliance as part of our financial statement audit. Some of the required communication that we have to speak to is that we did not identify any material misstatements during the audit. We did note one misstatement that was not corrected by the city, but we agreed it was not material and therefore did not impact the presentation of your final financial statements, which will be attached with our report. You will be able to find these results in your packet, but before we move on, do you have any questions about the financial statements results? No? So once you guys will be able to review the reports because they are in draft and there are no other questions, we'll be able to publish the reports on our website. We'll include the accountability report as well as the financial statement report. The financial statement report will have all of your final financial statements included right behind all of the report that we provided to you in the packet. Doug will probably get a notification when that does go out. And if anybody else wants to sign up, that is a link to do so. So you are getting the notification as well. Once the report is released, an audit survey will be released as well, probably to Doug. I know, as Lauren have mentioned, we reviewed some big areas during this audit, so we work with a significant number of people. So if anyone else would like to fill out the survey and provide the feedback, we really appreciate it. And it is reviewed on multiple levels, which also includes Pat McCarthy, who's our state auditor. And I know for the last about a year and a half, I feel like we've been talking about the tracker tool. It's a new tool that our office has put together, and it's especially useful for entities who do have a finding, such as yourself. What it allows to do, the finding recommendation is an outward facing in the report, but it also will be included in the tracker. Once the report is finalized, Doug, you should get a notification to be able to update the tracker. It's a way for the city to be able to track your progress on how you're addressing some of these recommendations, as well as just have that information go out more timely to the citizens. Because as we do our 2-year accountability audit, we're really not circling back until a few years down the road. So this will allow for more transparency, as well as if you ever have any turnover, everybody on board will know what the progress of the recommendation was. And if you have any questions, I know this is a new tool. If you are working on it and have questions, please reach out to the local team. We'll definitely try to assist in any way that we can.
Okay, that's a really helpful tool. I think that's good.
Great. And just some closing remarks. Our original estimate for the cost was about $36,000 with approximate travel costs of $700 because obviously we did most of the audit remotely with some of the quick trips to get the records. And we do have an additional about $1,000 overage, the original estimate, just to give enough time for us to research and be able to communicate all of the reportable issues that we noted today. Your next audit will be completed in 2021, which is this year, probably later on in the fall. It does only include the financial statement audit. So really, it does speak that we feel like the city is very proactive in addressing our recommendations. So even though you did have a finding and a management letter in your accountability audit, we really didn't feel the need to come back a year later. We still are okay with keeping the city on a 2-year cycle. And then we have the estimate for next year for 2020 financial statement audit, about $8,500 plus any travel expenses. Again, I think we're still in the midst of a public health emergency, so we'll keep evaluating whether or not we're able to be on site, or it will look very similarly to this year's audit.
Okay.
And just some resources that we have out there. And we have a local government support team. They do a lot of bars and online filing workshops. I'm sure the city probably utilizes that. We also have client portal and help desk, which allows for timely and accurate responses about questions you might have throughout the year that we're not there to assist you. And then we also have accounting and reporting trainings. So they're a really great resource out there. And the help desk is just a great resource if you have any specific questions during the year. The Center for Government Innovation is a non-audit function of our office. They have some great trainings as well as resources such as checklists. And I know that Lauren provided the segregation of duties guide. We're hoping it could be helpful for the course. And I know, Doug, I know you've looked at some of those as well. I know Lauren mentioned that you really thought they were some valuable resources there.
Yeah, those are good.
And yeah, and if you have any other ideas, there's that email. If you want to send your ideas to them, they are always interested in what's out, what's missing, what else can we do, and what value we can provide.
Okay.
And that's really all we had for the presentation. Just wanted to open up for any questions. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate, everybody making time and in such setting, in a remote setting, to try to make sure that we can communicate these, all of our results. And just want to say thank you for all of the effort throughout the audit as well.
Yeah, and thank you guys too. As you mentioned, we had a couple of pretty in-depth items to take a look at this year. And considering everything we're all working with right now, I thought it went really well, and I really appreciated your guys' help on being flexible too.
Thank you.
Well, in which case, once again, thank you all so much. And Doug and Jill, it was really excellent to work with you again this year. So at this point, I guess we'll go ahead and jump off of the call. And of course, if there are any questions or concerns that come up after, please always feel free to reach out. We're very available.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.